What's good, everybody? We got a special edition of Outside the Playbook. We are going to be previewing the upcoming NBA 24-25 season. We have guests like Des Sane from the JUCO Kings podcast, the Eye Test, One Stop RJ. Go into the description, click each of those links, and subscribe to their channels. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, and we're going to have a great episode. That's one more for the good guys.
I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
What's good, everybody? Welcome to Outside the Playbook. I got the Eye Test with me, and we're going to be talking about the Northwest Division, the Southeast Division. Before we get into that, get this video a like, subscribe to my channel, subscribe to the Eye Test, and we are going to dive right in. All right, we ain't gonna waste no time. Start with the Northwest Division. All right, Portland Trail Blazers. Last year, 23-24 season, 21-61. Bottom of the league in every single stat, pretty much. I mean, 29th in points. Opponent points per game, they were 19th, 29th in offensive rating, 23rd in defensive rating. Looking at the way this team is built, all right, coming off of the Damian Lillard era, absolutely trash last year. Do you think the Portland Trail Blazers actually failed their rebuild? Like right out of the gate, failed their entire rebuild?
I wouldn't say failed, only because I'm not sure how long they want that to be. Now, if you said it was like, from now to like maybe 2-3 years, maybe 5 years from now, then maybe I would say that. But right now, I think they just on par with any other team, man. They're going to start off super trash. And then they're gonna get it together. I think with Ayton, I think we've seen like the best of Ayton when he was with Phoenix, man. And I don't know if he'll be able to be, quote unquote, the face. I still give somebody like Scoot some time and stuff like that. I know we in a very, very microwavable like era right now when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I give him time. Everybody else, I think Simons, I thought was going to be a little bit more, especially under the tutelage of Dame and CJ and stuff like that. I thought he was going to be a whole lot better. But overall, yeah, I think they're right on par, to be honest with you.
I don't see this going well for a couple of years. Simply because of the piece you're building around. DeAndre Ayton is not that guy. He's not. He got, if you think about it, except for being able to, switch and guard guards, he has a lot of the same tools that Anthony Davis has. Anthony Davis just has a higher motor and isn't able to be around as much. I mean, I like Scoot Henderson as a young player playing for Chauncey Billups. Chauncey's going to steer him in the right direction. Sharp is nice. Simons is nice. He's just not efficient. Robert Williams was a nice piece for them. Matisse Thybulle. I mean, they got pieces on this team. All right. You drafted Klingon. That was a big pickup. Devontae Graham, he going there because he want to figure out, hey, I need a place in this league, maybe as a backup point guard. You lose Malcolm Brogdon, who was billed as the best pickup out of the Damian Lillard trade. And you ship him to Washington for Danny Avita. That's what you got out of the Damian Lillard trade for the most part. I mean, yeah, you got DeAndre Ayton, but really it's just DeAndre Ayton, Danny Avita, and that's it. Yeah. Now, the way I look at DeAndre Ayton, I don't know how familiar you are with the Incredibles movie, the first one. DeAndre Ayton is Syndrome. All right, the villain.
Right.
You know why I say that? Because guess what? He got all the tools to be a real villain, but that's all he got. Just tools. He ain't a real villain. He ain't a real killer. You need one of those, all right? Especially playing out west with the stacked Western Conference. So the next couple of years, I don't see them doing too much. Now, another team, I don't want to say they're in the same position because I think they got more talented players, but I think the Utah Jazz, I mean, you kind of got to look at them and ask the same question. Did you guys fail your rebuild? Now, you look at all of the things that they got for Donovan Mitchell. They got a king's ransom for Rudy Gobert, who, I mean, if you really think about it, what they gave up, what they got and stuff like that, I would have done that deal if I was Utah 10 times out of 10 times. I mean, it just makes sense for them. But looking at their season last year, 31-51. Points per game, they were 11th in the league, 29th in opponent points per game, 17th in offensive rating. They were at the very bottom of the league in defensive rating. They're not trying to guard nobody. They're not trying to stop anybody. A team full of young guys trying to prove themselves. They just moving the ball around, trying to see who can get an isolation bucket. Lauri Markkanen, good talent. Everybody wanted him this summer. Miami, Golden State, the Lakers, everybody who was anybody wanted to see if they can lure him away. Jordan Clarkson, he's a bucket. Off of the bench, instant offense. He's in that Jamal Crawford, Lou Will, that arena of six man. He can get to it. Colin Sexton, he was on a line where he could have been going anywhere this summer. When you look at Utah, all right, do you think they should trade Lauri Markkanen or Clarkson at all?
I think eventually. Kind of what we were just talking about with Portland. I think it's going to take them a minute. I mean, obviously, I think they're a little bit ahead of Portland, but
oh yeah, everybody's ahead of Portland.
Yeah, right, right.
Everybody.
No, but honestly, we just feel like it's just a one stop to just shout out to One Stop. I think it's just a one stop to just try to figure out where to go next. You know what I mean? When I think of, like you said, Lauri, Colin Sexton, John Collins, everybody else, it's just like, man, do what you got to do to get where you need to be. It's either like collect a check and get your numbers up in terms of like just being here for a while, or get your numbers up and then just be on that trading block.
Yeah. And you know what? I think they have a chance to be a good team if you don't have a sense of direction, if you don't have a game plan, if you don't have the thought be, all right, we have these pieces and we're going to add more pieces to this to create something special like OKC did. They just kept stacking up pieces, kept stacking up draft picks. You have Markkanen, you have Clarkson, you have Collins, you have Kessler, you have Colin Sexton. I mean, Keontae George, he came on strong late last year. Then you draft Collier. You have Eubank. I mean, you have a lot of pieces and a lot of good players. You could probably, playing out the next 2 or 3 years with draft picks, make some trades, and you could be a bona fide play-in 7 or 8 seed team if you committed to that. And you don't even know what direction they want to go in because, 1 minute everybody's on the trade block. The next minute they're just going to give, Lauri Markkanen a max deal. So they don't even know what their game plan is. So I think until they figure that out, they're going to struggle, but they have a lot of potential, a lot more potential than they realize right now. Let's talk about OKC since I brought them up. Last season, great year. And me and you, we both predicted they was going to have a great year because all the pieces fit, going from Chet, Jalen Williams, SGA, and, Josh Giddey before he got traded. But 23-24 OKC team, 57-25 record. Last year, they were 3rd in the league in points per game. Opponent points per game, they were 11th in the league. Offensive rating, they were 3rd. They were 4th in defensive rating. So basically, you top 5 on both sides of the ball. Right? And you led by SGA. You add in, and this is going to be, in my opinion, one of the biggest additions of any of the top 5 teams from the Western Conference. You pick up Alex Caruso in your backcourt, one of the best defenders in the league, high energy guy. I mean, he's essentially the same style of player as Josh Hart, but I think Alex Caruso is a better defender and a better shooter than Josh Hart. But when I look at OKC, I'm thinking you need to be progressing towards, all right, we need to be in the championship conversation. Do you see them as contenders or pretenders?
I see them way more contenders than pretenders. I think it's going to be a little. I'll say it'll be another year, maybe 2, maybe even 3. And I only say that because, the spotlight is on them now. They some young dogs, and with Alex Caruso, they just added another dog. Now it becomes a little bit, now SGA, I would even say the last 2 or 3 years, he's been doing this thing with not a lot of light or not a lot of people talking about him. But like, you know, last year was like, hey, I'm here. You know, a lot of those younger stars, you know what I'm saying, Ant-Man or whoever, you know, I'm here. So and then you saw what they did in terms of the Olympics and everything else playing for the country. So overall, I'll say this team is on the up and up, and the sky's the limit. I just hope they, you know, knowing OKC, the organization in terms of their knowing OKC in terms of their track record, I hope they just
I was about to say that.
I hope
that was gonna be my next point.
You already know when it comes to OKC, man. You already know when it comes to OKC. Look, I'm not trying
that was my next point.
They are so talented that the organization in terms of finding talent and picking the right pieces, it's keeping them. You got a whole lot of girlfriends and no wives.
Yep.
Whole lot of girlfriends, no wives, bro. That's all. You know how to get them. You just don't know how to.
They got concubines.
I'm just saying, brother. I'm just saying.
You know what's crazy, dude? I was about to go down that same train of thought, and I'll take it a step further. If they never let James Harden go, and they kept that big three together, that Golden State Warriors run never would have happened. Never would have happened. Now you look at the landscape out west. Denver, all their guys are young. Minnesota, all their guys are still relatively young. I mean, they're the ones that are next up, and then you still have, you know, potential in Memphis. All their guys are still young too, and John Morant's back into the fold. So you're in a situation where if you don't keep this together, you're gonna open the door once again for somebody else to go on a 3, 4, 5 year run where that's what you got to deal with every season. You got to keep this team together. You got to, and like I said, you got better. All right, in the episode when I talked to Dez about the Boston Celtics, he said their problem going into this season is they didn't add anybody. A team like OKC was number 1 in the Western Conference, and they added a much needed piece because if you think about it, Josh Giddey, he couldn't play in the playoffs. He was giving up buckets easily. You clean that up. You clean that up and you run it back and everybody comes back stronger, faster, can play multiple positions. If you look at that starting lineup, SGA can be 1, 2, or 3. Jalen Williams can be 3, 4, 5. Chet can be 4 and 5, sometimes a 3, depending on their lineup, because they also added in Hartenstein, who was hooping this summer. So their team is nasty going into this year. So definitely a contender. Looking at the Minnesota Timberwolves now, and the conversation around them is like, look, yes, I consider Ant to be probably the best shooting guard in the entire league. Voting came out. The NBA feels the same, all right? Looking at last year, 23-24 Minnesota Timberwolves, 56-26, 18th in points per game, first in both defensive stats, opponent points, and defensive rating. They were 16th in offensive rating. You lose, I don't even want to say you really lose because in my mind, it's kind of like an even swap trading Julius Randle for Karl Anthony Towns. The only difference is Julius Randle is a dog, a legit dog, and you add in DiVincenzo. I mean, if I'm New York, that's probably the piece that I absolutely should not have given up in this deal because of what he brings on both sides of the ball, and he can get hot with the best of them. So when I'm looking at Minnesota, I'm saying, you know what? Anthony Davis might be under some pressure to win the West. How do you feel about that?
Wait, what was the question? I'm sorry.
Do you think Anthony Edwards is under any pressure to win the West? Now let's look at their track record. You go 4-0 versus the Phoenix Suns, stacked team. 4-3 versus the defending champs and the Denver Nuggets, stacked team. Then you go to the Western Conference Finals. You ultimately lose Dallas in 5 games. I think they just ran out of gas. The next step is NBA Finals. Do you think that pressure is on them?
Oh, pressure is definitely on. Pressure is definitely on with Ant-Man. And I just say because one, because of the Western Conference Finals loss. I mean, you get there. I mean, you get to the Western Conference Finals. sometimes it depends if you're kind of like a Cinderella team or something like that. The next year they might see you maybe second round or something like that, or see you, eyes are open, but we don't really expect much.
Yeah.
I think with them, as far as how Ant-Man is playing, as far as the team as a whole, and the fact that they just gotta, again, like I said before, they got a couple more dogs now. They talked about Cat and his lack of aggression or inconsistent aggression, or assertiveness.
Cat.
You know what I'm saying?
He just a mean online, bro. That's all he is. He's just a mean online.
Just the to be assertive. And now they got, they got a left-handed dog, and I know I always say left-handed dog just because he like doing it, the in and out dribble, going left and stuff like that the whole time and stuff like that. But yeah, with DiVincenzo, definite great pickup. I think out of that, it was I can say even, but I'm looking way more on the side of Minnesota to say they won that out, and you could possibly see them Western Conference Finals again if they get it together chemistry wise with the next two. I mean, with the new two, if not finals, man, potentially, because I think Ant is hungry.
I will say this, all right, and you're gonna completely understand where I'm going with this. When I look at Anthony Edwards, all right, you ever seen The Dark Knight? Heath Ledger, right? That one. Anthony Edwards is Harvey Dent. He is literally Harvey Dent in that movie. Because think about it, the whole first half of that movie, they just building him up. He's the savior of the city. He's going to take the keys from Batman, do it in the light. He's the new face of Gotham. And the moment tragedy hits, they flip on him. And he flips too, right? He becomes a target. All right, tragedy strikes. Joker starts talking to him, getting into his head. All right, this is going to go left the rest of the movie, right? You live long enough to see yourself become a villain.
Always.
If Anthony Edwards does not get to the conference finals, or if he gets there and loses badly, like last year, right? That's the tragedy in The Dark Knight. And then he's going to flip. They're going to try to flip him and make him the villain going from this point out because, you didn't get the job done? That's the natural progression just to get to the NBA Finals. Now you win a championship. We put the whole thing on your shoulders to be the new face of the NBA. You don't come through, they're gonna turn on him. So yeah, I think there is pressure there. There's a lot of pressure there because now the guy that's been the face of the team ain't there no more. 9 years, he gone. We putting all of this on your shoulders. You got to get us there. So yeah, there's pressure there to get it done.
Definitely.
Denver Nuggets. All right. Last year they go 57-25. And at times it didn't even seem like they were that good to go 57-25. Like they just got there because Joker was doing his thing. I mean, 14th in points per game, 6th in opponent points, 8th in defensive rating. They were 5th in offensive rating. But at times it just didn't seem like that. If you didn't look at the numbers, if you didn't look at the record, you wouldn't even know they were probably tied for the first seed in the Western Conference. And then come the summertime. All right, this is why they're so intriguing is you add in Russell Westbrook off of the bench. Jamal Murray's been struggling for the past year and a half. Is there a case where, you know what? Excuse me. Jamal Murray doesn't have it going. So you say, all right, for a long stretch, we might have to bench him and just go with Russell Westbrook. Like, that's just my train of thought. When you add a guy of Russell Westbrook's caliber, no matter what they try to say about him, no matter how you try to, twist the narratives and all that, Russell Westbrook makes players better, and they love playing with him on the basketball court when he's allowed to have the basketball and play his game. Do you think teams have figured the Denver Nuggets out?
I think teams have always knew what they were capable of doing or what they do. I think they just couldn't stop them. I mean, honestly, everything revolves around the passing ability of Joker. Obviously, he can score the ball, he can bully, he can shoot the three and everything like that. but it's very, very reliant on the team. He's very much a heavy team player, as much as we see all the different numbers in terms of points and rebounds. I think with Russ as an addition, I think you just add a smaller, faster, more mobile Joker in a sense, because so I think the biggest thing that's going on right now for the Denver Nuggets, man, is everybody else except those two. I do think Russ, obviously he needs to knock down shots when need to be and stuff like that, but you got two individuals who play similar in the sense of wanting to give people the ball. So everything
it's gonna be crazy when both of them sitting there at 9 assists.
I'm telling you,
who gonna shoot that shot?
Man, look,
because they're gonna be throwing it back and forth.
Look,
who gonna shoot that shot?
I'm throwing 8. I'm throwing 8 on my parlay for both each time. You know what I mean? So,
Facts.
So that's pretty much it with those, man. With those guys, man, it's just everybody else. It's everybody else that's surrounding those two. Just like I feel like with it's everything else surrounding Joker. Now it's everything surrounding Joker and Russ.
And you gotta make shots. You lose Christian Brown. I mean, not Christian Brown. You lose Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and now you move Christian Brown into that spot. So Russell Westbrook is the spark coming off the bench. So it's going to be some shuffling and some getting used to there, because KCP in that lineup, that was the most consistent starting 5 in the NBA. Right. So, I mean, that's going to take some time. That's going to be some chemistry, especially when you're being a 6th man for that long coming off the bench. You got to change your whole routine coming into the game. And at that crucial position in the Western Conference where you got to have a lot of responsibility on your shoulders. I mean, we was talking about Anthony Edwards, SGA, and just this division. You got to think Kyrie, Luka, Beal, Devin Booker. I mean, you got a lot to deal with from that spot, and now you're a new starter. Hey, man, just make sure you bring your helmet and work boots, because it's gonna be a huge adjustment for that young man going into the next season.
I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to take this chance to apologize